everybody. Looks like we are live once more. Happy Wednesday. Thank God we made it. I'm so glad that everybody is here. So, let's see who we have here today. We have Mr. Roy, Color Graphics. How are you today? Great to see you. We have Royce from New Jersey. We have Brad all the way from Manitoba, Canada. We have Colette from Wisconsin. Great to see you both. We have Dwayne from San Luis Obispo in California. We have Patty from Illinois. And who else do we have here? We have Paul. How you doing from Indiana? Oz from the Atlanta area, and we have John Diekman from Wisconsin. How great is that? So, wonderful group already. Thank you so much, everybody. Let me turn on my fan here. So this is part 2 of the Edgy portrait, which I thought would be fun to have something that everyone. So the sound is a bit low. I think I know what's causing that, and I'll fix that in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. Let's see. And I'm sure it's much better right now, sir, huh? How's that? So that should be better. I just moved the mic closer to me, so that should definitely fix it. How's that, okay? Ah, fantastic. Thank you so much for the heads up. How's the picture quality? Everything good? So, very, very good. So glad that everybody is here. So I'm just going to move my mic a little bit out of the way so it's not creating a cast shadow. We don't want cast shadows. All right, so I have my Extreme Patriot Arrow, and I'm having the detail mixture, and I'm doing that 50-50 with detail mixture and distilled water, and we're just going to continue developing slow. Slow is always better, always. There are no points for speed, so I just make sure that we take our time, that sort of thing. Just going to move my. See, I have the mic closer, but I don't want to cause a cast shadow because that's just weird. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll raise the gain a little bit and I'll move it over here. So that's the best I can do. Hopefully that would be better. If you guys need to, raise that volume, but hopefully this is better. And let's see. Yeah, I can't have it too close, then it causes a cast shadow, and that's just weird. So, all right, so let's go ahead and we'll start. Let's see, so, make this a little brighter. Okay, so what I like to do whenever I come in fresh, oh, thank you, Patty, appreciate it. And then, so sound is good, that's great, and I don't have a weird cast shadow. All right, so we're going to start like I always do. You know, start with the iris, usually on camera left. There we go. The pupil. A little bit of tip dry happening there. Lower that air pressure just a bit. Just pull this down. Don't be afraid to lower that air pressure if you want just a little bit more, just a little bit more control. we go. And I'm going to continue. So what I do in one eye, I'll do in the next. So right here, see, everything up here is dry. So there's a little more space here. It's making a little bit more of a triangle shape. So I'm actually going to address that immediately. So I'm just going to lightly erase. And there's no problem going in with your pencil, right? There's no problem whatsoever. I think this angle right here is fine. I just believe that maybe this is going up at a steeper angle, which is giving us this kind of more triangular shape here. So I'm just going to come up pretty steep here. And then right here, I'll kind of come across with a slight incline. But now I'm seeing more of this triangle shape right there. So these are little adjustments that really, when you do make them, they go a long way. Now, would I do that in the late going? No. These kind of changes you either make early or you don't make it all and you live with it. I mean, it's a minor change, but I think it's important if you can get to it early, you know? Okay, so now I could come in with the airbrush. And then once I have it in and it's dry, I can erase that pencil line. Maybe just a little bit more of an incline, but that's okay. You can always adjust later. And it's important, notice that I am with the detail mixture and the diluted none even more, because I don't want to be making like massive decisions in the early going. And notice that my distance is really important to get the, you know, how light or dark it is, right? So the distance is really important. So always learn your distances. And right here, I'll work on the retroorbicularis oculi fat, which is right here. And we'll go ahead and paint the shadow that it creates. There we go. And so now what we did on this side, of course the other eye is obscured with the hair and it's in shadow, that sort of thing, but we're going to give attention, because we gave attention to this eye, we definitely have to give attention to this eye over here. So there's no way around it. So I'm just going to, you know, at this stage, maybe I'll try and reassert the drawing the best I can. And we see here that there is a hair that comes down, and then right here you don't really see much of anything. So it's important to paint what's there, but it's important to realize what's not there, and that's going to really make a difference. Oh, thanks, Patty. Patty said don't forget to hit the like button, so I appreciate that. Dennis Baker, all the way from the Dallas, Texas area. How are you, sir? Great to see you. So glad you're here. How you been, sir? And then just come over here. See, one of the things that you'll notice is that when you have these higher profile magnets, you don't want that because they're good on this side because they're not casting a shadow on where you're painting. So in this case, you put that over there and you get one of these lower profile magnets, and then it's not casting such a crazy shadow. So always be mindful of which magnet you're using. Put this right to the edge because I don't want underspray. Here we got this other hair coming right over here. I'm not going to get too involved in the hairs up here yet because I'm working on the eye. So, you know, we tend to kind of get sidetracked. Well, I tend to get sidetracked. So you want to make sure that you stay focused. Laser focused. 1 second rule. Also, there's a clearance of the iris from the lower eyelid, right? So you want to make sure, because if you don't have that clearance of the lower eyelid to the iris, then it's going to look weird in the sense it will no longer look like her. These little bitty differences make a big, big difference. And notice I'm not painting where, I'm not erasing where I already painted, because you don't ever want to, you never want to erase where the paper is wet, because the paper will get damaged. And then over here it's quite light, so I'll make sure, even though part of me wants to see a definition of that eye, I'm not going to put it there. So that's the whole thing about compressed values and stuff like that, is that we want to make sure that we're not putting contrast where it doesn't belong. Just go over here. That, just creating some balance. Now here there's quite a nice bit of shadow in the lower eyelid there, and I'm just going to make sure that I pay attention to it, and also some of the shadow shapes here, which are kind of like mid-tones really. As always, want to thank God for the ability to have the live stream and the resources, and just I want to give due to God, you know, that's always important. So I always want to say that during my live streams, and I thank God for you guys and girls out there. Thanks for hanging out with me. Means more than you guys know that I have great people who come to my live streams, hang out and talk about art, talk to me, talk to each other. To me, that's really cool. So again, I'm working down the center line of her eyes, the nose, the mouth. But before I do that, on camera right, we could maybe do a little more work on her eyebrow. Let's do that. I'm not going to get involved in a little bit of hairs. That's not something that we need to do. We need to make sure that we are getting involved in the dark and light patterns that are in her eyebrows. Believe it or not, they are there. And I'm not getting involved in the little ones, just the large ones. And you know what? One of my weaknesses throughout my portraiture career, which I've been doing since I was a little kid, I always make eyebrows not bushy enough. So I always make sure, even to this day, that I make them a little more bushy than I actually want to. We all have our little weird proclivities when we're painting portraits. There are some psychologists said that when we're doing a portrait, every portrait is a self-portrait. So that's interesting. Have you ever heard that? Has anyone ever heard that? Do you agree? Do you disagree? To some extent, that every portrait is a self-portrait? Subconsciously? And then here I could do the shadow plane that's underneath that eyebrow, opposite of the retrobicularis oculi fat pad, right there. Great. And we'll bring this crease of the lower upper eyelid here. Okay, so like I always say, you always feel like an airbrush whisperer at times, so I'm just going to make sure that my airbrush is working 100%. And it really isn't. I changed Q-tips, and these Q-tips are a little more fibrous, and I think they get in there. But I don't think that anything really cleans as well as Q-tips for me. I know there's other things, but maybe a little bit of fiber got into the nozzle. We'll see. Okay, so just give me a moment. I'm just going to kind of wash out my airbrush really good. So I'll be right back. Never work with an airbrush that's not working 100% because it'll kill you. So what I'm going to do is I have my water, and I am just going to give my airbrush a really good cleaning, which is good to do, and this is not a bad thing on the live stream. And then what I can do also is take my painting and put her aside. So that's not a bad idea either. Okay, put her right over here. And now I'm going to clean out this airbrush really well. Every once in a while you do it. I am almost psychotic in how clean I keep my airbrushes. So, but once in a while you just, so what I would do is I would just take this bad boy apart. And it's good to show you guys. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to take my wrench and I'm just going to take it totally apart. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this underwater and this underwater. I'll be right back. Okay. And now what also I'll do. Hey Mike, how's it going? Good to see you. Cody, how are you? That's so great. Cody says, I think there may be some merit to the self-portrait statement. I just seen we're live and I wanted to tell you it's great to see you creating beautiful art. Thank you, Cody. I appreciate that. Oh man, thank you, Cody. Thank you for your prayers. I really appreciate that so much, my friend. Thank you and happy Easter. And Mike says, Mike Deloach, each is a self-portrait in the sense that every piece reveals something about the artist, area of focus, preference, subjects, interpretation. How wonderful is that? What a great insight, Mike. Thank you. So I have an older needle, and I'm just going to go in here and see if there's any kind of little thing that might be in there. It seems nice and clear. Plus, what I like to do, my friends, is I take a magnifying glass, and what I'll do is I'll look at that nozzle and see if anything weird is happening. Except for me, you know, I'm weird, but anything else weird besides me in that nozzle. And it looks pretty good. I'm going to look here in the head assembly, anything weird, and let's look at the needle. Needle looks good, everything looks fine. So now that we're happy with that, we can go ahead and put the airbrush. I'm going to show you some tricks, or not tricks, of what I do when I put an airbrush back together. And this is good because you guys are going to like it. Oh, Mike says unfortunately his work is out of focus. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this, you can get this at the dollar store. It's lip balm that has no flavor, no scent. That's good to have. And what I like to do is put the backing on first. So here's a good lesson on how to put the backing on the Extreme Patriot Arrow. You put this on there first and you park it by putting it off to the side. Then you put in your trigger. And hopefully my airbrush will be working 100%. And then I'm going to take that trigger and put it against. Let me turn my autofocus on. And then once that's kind of laying on there, I'm going to take my needle guide and everything, and I'm going to put that in. Now what's interesting is that the spring has to be popping, right? So you just, and if it's not popping, you just turn it until those two pieces are aligned, right? And you just continue to tighten. Make sure that you have that spring going. Okay, now this has to be tight, the main, and then the little dial, right? There's a big dial that needs to be tight, not like hard tight, just finger tight. And then just like a half a revolution. Now, here's my own little trick. I'm going to take my needle, I'm going to put it in there. It's going to do two things. It's going to seat the trigger and everything so that doesn't pop out. Now what I do is I'll take this, my chapstick, and I'll just put a little bit on the threads, right? Make sure that there isn't anything in the front, right? So I have chapstick going around. Now what I like to do, which is interesting, is I'll take my nozzle and then just put it right there, right, like that. And then I retrieve the needle, like so. And then I go ahead and put on my head assembly. And just tighten that Now, I'm not tightening it crazy because you kind of mess with the O-ring that's there, this little plastic O-ring. So now that so by doing that, your nozzle is seated correctly, right? So I can take the needle out. I could go ahead and put my chucking nut on. Now everything should be nice and airtight. Should be. Okay, so now I just get my backing and we're going to test it out and pray. Hey, Mr. Total Pain, John Payne, good to see you. How are you today, my friend? I have my cap. Put this here. This is an interesting little part of the live stream. I don't think I've done much of this because I rarely have to do maintenance on this every once in a while. So once again, I'm going to, before you do anything, put ink or paint in there, test it out with water, because if it's not working correctly, it's a lot easier just to dump the water than clean your airbrush again, right? So now I have this. What I'm going to do is I have a white piece of paper, and I'm going to see if any water is coming out before I pull back on and nothing is happening. So it looks like we solved that problem. Oh, there's still ink in there, huh? Okay. So now we're doing really good. Now the airbrush is responding. Okay, I'm going to dump out this water here, this inky water. Okay, so we're going to go ahead once more and put like 4 drops of detail, 4 drops of water. 2, 3, 4. And then 4 drops of water. Hey Travis, how are you? Good to see you. And so Travis, the reason why you haven't received your airbrush just yet is because I ran out of the inks I'm giving you, so I'm making a fresh set. That will definitely be in the mail on Friday. So sorry for the delay, my friend. Always a pleasure to see you, Travis. And so cool. I'm so glad you guys are all here. And oh, the good news is your airbrush is all tested and ready to go, and it's kicking butt, so I'm happy about that. And we just got to get those inks ready. Notice I don't have that problem where I'm just putting down the air and the ink's coming out. Increase the air. And what I want to do, sometimes when you want the ink to come out quicker, is that you tighten that little dial there, the small dial. If you tighten that, then the spring will have more tension and the ink will come out faster, meaning you don't have to pull back as far. And the more you loosen that little dial, the longer it'll take as you pull back for the ink to come out. All right, so not bad, not bad. So that's good. I hope you enjoyed that part. That's a little different, right? To see how I kind of do that. Thanks, Travis. I appreciate that. Oh, the single action, man. You're gonna like this, definitely. It's gonna be night and day, that's for sure. And let me make sure I get my white paper so I can test. Okay, so we are back, and maybe I'll leave the go ahead and leave the autofocus on. Let's see how that works. We're going to work on the cast shadow of her finger here. There we go. And so, yeah, we'll get rid of the autofocus and get rid of those lines. Hey, Honey Rivera, how are you? Great to to see you. How's everything? I'm so glad you're here. How's everything with the fire department? Everything cool? Mr. David Lee Trevino, how are you, sir? Thank you so much. David Lee Trevino, he owns 2 of my airbrushes, and you know, it's such an honor to have him working with my airbrushes. Thank you so much, David, for that. And David's out of Texas, so that's really cool. So great to see you, longtime follower of the live stream. So I'm so excited you're here, my friend. Oh, remember we were going to erase those pencil lines we did earlier. So we can lightly erase that since it's dry. So whenever you want to erase something, just put it in back of your mind, in back of your head, and then you can take care of it when it's dry. Never erase when it's wet. Right here, this nostril, the wing of the nostril, not too happy with it. So I'm going to rethink it, you know, rethink it with the pencil. So I can see that the wing of this nostril comes up here like this, comes out, but then makes kind of a wicked left-hand turn, and I had it coming out. So big difference. And so what I can do is take a little bit of an aggressive eraser, kind of adjust that a little bit. Little differences here and there make big differences down the line. There we go. And over here we can choose some shadows in her nose. And a little bit darker right here, which I already have. And right here. Okay. Looks like we have a little bit of a cast shadow of the hair right here, which is cool. Hey, Mr. Gregory, how are you, my friend? Great to see you. Oh, I'm so glad you're here, Mr. Gregory from Oklahoma. Mr. Dwayne Marshall with the super chat. Thank you, my friend. And thank you for the Easter wishes. Happy Easter, sir. Always appreciate you, Mr. Dwayne, and your talent and your friendship. Thank you always. Look forward to seeing you on Wednesdays as everybody. And just thank you for your encouragement. It really, really encourages me and pushes me. And like I always say, without you guys and your support, life would be just so much harder. So thank you, sir. Dwayne, you rock. Thank you so much. That means the world to me. You are great. And so that's so cool. Mr. Gregory, how are the kids doing? Are you on Mr. Mom duties this week, babysitting the kids, or is the wife not on business? I think it's great that you do Mr. Mom duties. I'm sure the kids are excited when you're minding them. You have your own kind of fun that they have with you, which is great. Let me see if I can put the backing back on, if I can find it. Is this the one? Yes. Okay. So that is interesting how every portrait is a self-portrait in one way or another. That is really quite fascinating. So now we can start making some erasing here and there, because we don't need the training wheels for always. So right here we have some pencil lines at the zygomatic arch meeting the maxilla. Zygomatic bone, I should say. And all of April, just call it being a dad. Wow, no, great dad, by the way. So I think that's amazing, sir. I think that is fantastic, you know. most important job ever are your kids, you know, and it's really is. So I admire you, sir, Mr. Gregory. Now, any of your kids, Mr. Gregory, do they have a talent for art or drawing? I had a stepdaughter. My stepdaughter, she she was really talented in art. When she would draw when she was young, and now she's actually, quite an accomplished graphic design, and also does amazing digital art. So yeah, you always see that spark when they're little, right? Um, but some kids, they're all different. Some kids might have a spark for mathematics, and that's cool, or science, or music. It's important to you know, let them explore. Oh, the two older kids like to draw. That is so neat. What are some of the things they like? I know kids at different times, back in the day, they used to like to draw Pokemon. When I was a kid, it was dinosaurs. And so that kind of stuff. So it's always cool, like what they want at different times. Uh, Bugs Bunny. We used to do Bugs Bunny a lot, right? When we were kids. So, guys and girls out there, what are some of the things you used to draw as kids and that you were really good at? I'd love to hear. Okay, now let's go ahead and see if we can work on her nostril here. There we go. And then the dark of this nostril. There, perfect. And right over here we have the cheekbone going down to the space of the cheekbone or zygomatic bone, the space that is in between that and the mandible, which is of course the jawbone. Mr. Dave, thank you so much for the super chat sticker, my friend. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you, sir, and the support and friendship and seeing you every week. Thank you so much. And like I was saying that, you know, the super chat stickers, they actually went ahead and paid for the electricity and the gas for my apartment. So thank you, thank you, thank you for that. And that was one thing I didn't have to stress about. So I really appreciate that, sir. And I think it's such an honor to have all of you come here on Wednesday nights. You could be doing anything else, but you hang out with me. So thank you for that. And thank you for encouraging me to continue. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The monster trucks. How cool. You used to do that as a kid, huh? That is neat. That is really cool. And that is so interesting. Yeah, like different generations, right? We draw different things. I remember being a kid, like in first grade, and I was selling drawings of Tyrannosaurus Rex and Triceratops, and I'd sell them for a quarter to the kids. So I was making money, an entrepreneur, even when I was little. And now I'm just going to work on her lips. Now, unless the woman has a lip liner, you're not going to see the definition of the lips all the way around. So look at the reference and you'll see that the edge of the lips and above, near the philtrum, it's quite defined, but then it becomes kind of muted and soft edged. And that's important because that's what's going to give us that naturalism. And not necessarily anything like, let's say photorealism. We're not after photorealism, we're after a sense of understanding of anatomy, stuff like that. I'm going to enlarge her lips here, and I'm going to really kind of get in there, right here next to that finger. I want to make sure that the line of the finger is like on the money, otherwise it'll just cause more work for us. And again, we want to do teeth like super white, but in reality they're not super white. So we have to get away from the symbolism that often associated when painting the world around us. So right now I can see this seems to be dry. I'm just going to get rid of that extra pencil line, just like so. And I'll always keep a piece of paper nearby so I can get the flow and the aim down. And just get that 1 second rule. There we go. And then this little shadow plane right here, or cast shadow I should say. And then the lower lip. This comes straight across. And then we have the space in between the two lips here, or the shadow of the upper lip. Kind of bring that up, like so. And then we want to give volume to this upper lip, because the upper lip is, so even the upper lip is a shape, so the light's coming from above, and looks like coming from above and to the camera right, and so we're just going to make sure that the lip is a three-dimensional form that's reacting to that light. Oh, and John says, Tim, what sizes do you make your paintings? So I pretty much stick with 8.5 by 11. This way it's easy to frame and stuff like that. So my India ink frames, it's pretty much always 8.5 by 11. When I do pastels, I usually go 11 by 14 is usually a good size for me. And then when I'm doing oils, I can go all the way up to 24 by 36, and pastels too. Sometimes when I'm doing full figure compositions, I go, usually standard sizes would be 20 by 30, 24 by 36, and then once in the blue moon, 36 by 48. So those are the sizes. But notice one thing, whenever I'm doing a size, it's always something that I could buy a ready-made frame. So framing it, this way I don't have to have a custom frame job. and that would raise the price and ultimately raise the price of the artwork for my collectors, and I would not want to do that. I want my work to be as affordable as possible for those who are moved by it enough to want to buy it. So if I can cut costs by strategically thinking about the dimensions of the painting in the early going, and this way I could frame it for, like, let's say $20-$30 and don't like bump up the price, and I always like to take those kind of savings and give that savings to my collectors, as opposed to just say, okay, now I can make more money because I'm the one who framed it. No, same thing with shipping, you know. I always try and pay part of the shipping, right? So when someone purchases something, I always pay part of the shipping. Usually shipping's around $10 or so, and I think I charge like $7.99 domestic. So that's what I always try to do is, and then when I go international, usually I charge $19.95. It's usually about $24. So I always try and pay part of the shipping, you know. So it's always try and I think people realize that, and they enjoy someone who is, you know, out for them as well, you know, out for their good as well. Okay, so now remember with the upper lip, we want to make the lips three-dimensional forms. So again, the light is coming from above and slightly to the right, and camera right. And so we're going to kind of make that bottom lip a three-dimensional form. Same thing with the lip on this side, and then we're going to wait till that dries and get rid of some of those pencil lines that are right now in the way. They're no longer training wheels, they're in the way. We're going to take this and hold this down so I maintain that nice edge where the finger is. And then there's a nice dark in between the two lips. 1 second rule is always in effect, everybody. Just make sure. And it comes over here and then slightly goes down. Okay, so now you can see, we're going to let that dry. And now you can see we have that expression a little bit better, which is good. And that's what we want to continue. Just slowly work on down the center line. And let's work on her chin area right here, right? So we have it dark right here. So I'm just going to hit that in between the fingers. Make sure you don't get too wet because there's acetate there. Make sure the magnet is not on your drawing like I had it. Okay. Pumping that trigger. Okay, so now let's go ahead and move on to this part of her chin here. So as something turns away, that's why you see it looks like there's like a dark kind of outline around the chin. That's the chin, the form of the chin and jaw actually turning away. As it turns away from the light, it gets darker and darker. And that's why we're seeing this little kind of almost like a dark line at the end. It's turning away from the light. So that's basically what's happening. what we can look for in the forehead. Let's see, what's going on in the forehead here? Well, we do have the frontal bone, right? Which has two ridges, two almost balls on the top of the forehead, on the front top of the forehead. But we really can't see this because it's obscured by hair. What we can see, tiny bit, if we're looking for it, we can see the supraorbital ridge, which comes over here, right? You have the supraorbital ridge here, and you have the supraorbital ridge here. And then you have the corrugated supercilii muscles here a little bit. And then right here, you can barely see it, but it's the glabellum. So we're going to be looking for it and see if by looking for it, can we see it a little better than just with the naked eye. Be right back, guys. Okay, so double check. I'm going to actually raise the air pressure on my compressor because I don't think I'm getting enough pounds per square inch here. Okay, let's see how that goes. Oh, much better. But it's not as responsive as normally, so I'm not sure what's happening. But that's very rare with my airbrush. If you follow me, it's very rare that I have any problems, so I'm not sure. So now we're going to work on here, and we're just going to kind of see if we could see any indication of the supraorbital ridge there, and also the glabellum right in the center here. Oh, this is cool. So Dwayne says, I know you said it this before, but what material do you use for shields? My Mylar is about out. Yes, I'll tell you exactly. You get it from Amazon, my friend. And it is right here. It's called Samsil, and you can get clear 100 count transparency film, and it's for laser printers, for use with all laser printers. Clear view, 8.5 by 11, and I believe it's like $18, and you get 100 sheets. So it's clear 100 count transparency film for laser printers, and it's real nice and thin. So I don't know the exact millimeter or whatever, but it's fantastic. I use it all the time. You'll love it. So definitely, if you want, I could even, Dwayne, I could email you the Amazon link, or maybe I can get the Amazon link for you right now. Why not? Why don't I go do that for you, my friend? Let's see. Amazon. I'll go to my orders. And I buy this stuff all the time because I run out of it. Let's see here. So it shouldn't be far before, there it is. Okay. All right. $22. It's gone up. Ouch. But here it is. So there's no affiliation or anything with that. So just go ahead and purchase that. $22 went up like $5. So that's horrible. Pam, how you doing all the way from Virginia? How's everything? Good to see you. So glad you're here. Let me open up my ginger ale. How was your week, Pam? I'm so glad you're here. So we're working just a little bit on some of the anatomical forms of the skull. Ah, so cool. I'm so glad to hear that, Pam. So that is wonderful. Let's take off the freehand shield here. Oh, my pleasure. So glad you're here, Pam. Thanks for hanging out with us. It's an honor for you to hang out with us. So thank you for spending some of your Wednesday here. I really, really, really appreciate you. You guys could be doing a number of fun stuff and you decide to hang out with me, and I don't take that lightly. Okay, so now you can see this is where we are, and so now let's see if we have the other stencil. Maybe I could cover her face, and by doing so, let's see, do I have that face stencil? I did have it. Here it is. So maybe we can cover her face and start working on some of the darker areas. That might be a good idea. So let's see. Just make sure that it's aligned, right? And that's important. Ooh, I just messed it up. Okay. Make sure this is lined up. Oh, well, thank you, Pam. You're awesome yourself. I appreciate that. And always a pleasure, Dwayne. Any information I could do to help you out, that is definitely, I always look for opportunity to help out good people. That is my privilege, my blessing to help out people. Good people. Okay, so now we have this, and now we could maybe go ahead and start working on some of these dark areas a little bit. Why not? The hand is uncovered, so we're just going to maybe not go down here because I don't want to hurt that edge, but we can work up here. That would probably be the best. Start working up here a little bit, darkening some of the mass of the hair. So we're about 4 inches away. Still have that watered down detail mixture and just darkening these values. So why darken the hair? So one of the reasons why we want to darken the hair as soon as possible, because then that will give us an idea of how light or how dark we need to go with our midtones, right? Because without the mass of the dark of the hair, that's going to be kind of like a weird mystery. We don't want that, right? So we want to have the relative values. Now, there are little spaces inside here, like light areas. Let's not worry about that. And the reason is that we could pretty much just use our eraser at the end to just pull out those lights. So, and that's much better than trying to paint around these little light areas. So I went ahead and raised my PSI to 35, which is very rare. And so by doing that, now my airbrush is flowing much better. So I think I need major maintenance on my airbrush, which I haven't done in probably 2 years. And this is what I paint with all the time. But I think I may need to just purchase a new nozzle. And I think that's what I'm going to do. Just put a new nozzle in my airbrush, and that will solve it. Because the needle's okay, but it's definitely probably the nozzle. Either there's something caked up in there after all these years. I haven't changed my nozzle in about 2.5 years. So it could just be something going on inside the nozzle or something. But 2.5 years for a nozzle, that's a really good value. Mr. Clutch Patrick, how's it going? Great to see you. I'm so glad you're here, sir. How is everything? Patrick is one of my students in the mentorship program, and we're doing an amazing painting of Audrey Hepburn. It's a lot of fun. So that's cool. And Patrick just finished doing a painting of the singer of Faith No More, Mike Patton. Really cool. All of my students, I'm so proud of them, so proud of what Brad is doing, and Colette and Roy, John, Total Pain, John Payne. You guys are just amazing. So as you see, just getting that mass of the dark of the hair is really helping me out. So I have her ear here, and I just want to make sure I don't spray into her ear. Since I changed the PSI on my compressor, I'm having a much easier time. Now I'm just going to put a magnet right there on the edge so we don't have any underspray. I think we're running out of ink. Yes, we are. So let me go ahead and put more of that. So detail mixture 4 and 4. Make sure when you put ink or paint or anything in your airbrush that you're far away from your painting, and also kind of lower than your painting. So if you do have like a splash, it's not going to go straight up and on because it's lower. So make sure that the angle is lower than your painting. Now I just have to find my water, which is over here, and then 4 drops. Perfect. Take a back of a paintbrush or something, right? Just mix that. Wipe that off. And always, always, always test your airbrush before. Okay. We are in good shape. Put another magnet right over there. Okay, we're going to continue coming down here with the hair. It's very soft edge, so I'm not worried too much about doing hard edges with the hair because her hair on the outside is very soft edge, very flyaway hair. And oh, so Pam says, do you do other kind of pictures like ocean scenes? If I have a commission, I would. I don't gravitate towards them. I love them. I think they're really fantastic. I just bought a print of a painting of somebody underwater. I thought that was really wonderful. Yeah, I do love that. I want to do more of landscapes and stuff like that. But right now, it's sort of, when you become a full-time artist, you kind of are known for something, Pam, so you do more of that because that's what people buy. So you're less apt to do a lot of changing your genre, right? Because then it could really hurt you financially. So you pretty much stick with who's collecting your work over the years. So that's why you'll see a lot of portrait painters just do portraits, landscape painters just do landscapes, because it has to do with economics, right? They're not so free to go ahead and, even though they might love landscape painters, a portrait painter will maybe go into figure work because it's kind of, you know, in that same ballpark of what you're known for. There's a great part in the movie Basquiat where he asked his cousin, Jean-Michel Basquiat, in the movie, how do you become famous? And one of the things that he says is, you got to work all the time, but not just any kind of work, the same kind of work that people that people are expecting, because if you do work that people aren't expecting, they'll get mad at you, and which they already will anyway. But your collectors will kind of get upset that you're not doing the same exact work, because in the art world they want to recognize you for whatever. Like we recognize George Innes for here's a George Innes painting. They recognize George Innes for these wonderful landscapes. They recognize Drew Blair for the super amazing photorealistic portraits, and so that kind of thing, you know, we as artists we kind of get pigeonholed in a sense. It's not a good thing. It's just kind of the nature of the business, you know. When we're kids, we can do anything we want, or even if, let's say, like Pam, you're not doing it for a living, it's something that you do and you enjoy and you don't care whether or not someone buys it, then you're in a great position. If you're there and you don't have to sell your work, I think you're in an amazing position, because then you could really explore and just serve yourself as to what it is you want to paint that day. And I definitely admire artists in that position. And Pam, do you sell your work, or is that do you sell your work a lot, or do you do it more for your own? And what kind of work do you do, Pam? Always love to hear. If I asked you before and I forgot, forgive me. And you see now we're just darkening. But notice I'm doing my freehand shield, perpendicular and not parallel. Just going a little slightly darker here. So I want to have a differentiation of the hair and her chin. For fun, and you love it, that is so cool. Oh, thanks, Pam. Pam said she has no doubt I can paint anything. Thank you. I appreciate that so much. Where I really explore is in photography. I do a lot of photography. I do landscapes and portraits and botany and stuff like that. So in photography, I'm really exploring, and I really love doing that. That's a lot of fun. Plus, photography helps our painting, right? So, and I'm more free to do whatever I want because I don't really sell my photography. Yes, and the photography is totally for fun and artistic expression. Perpendicular, not parallel. And let me put some magnets here just to keep this paper down. So this is like week 2, and this is kind of like the time where a lot of people are like, Tim, it looks like you're not doing anything. And it does look like I'm not doing anything, but it's all cumulative, right? As I'm working, it's going to come together, but you have to get through this part. Like looking here, I can see the side plane of the nose is a little darker. So I'm just going to reinforce that. A little darker there. And I want to do this dark area right here. Travis says it's nice to the automotive world. You get to basically paint on anything and everything and get paid. That is amazing. Yes, definitely, Travis. That must be a lot of fun. Painting on everything comes with a lot of other challenges. Yeah. So great insight. So when you're painting on something round, what are some of the things that you do? So even though it's round, that let's say you're doing a portrait or something that the face doesn't look distorted. What are some of the things, and I know Dwayne does custom work, so Guys, what do you do to kind of combat that? I'd love to hear. And that would be a great insight for other people in the live stream tonight. Like I said, I learned so much from my students, and I learned so much from the talented artists who are on my live stream. You guys are just, guys and girls are just amazing talents. And you know what? It's a win-win because I learned so much from you all. And thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. And also your challenges, right? You know? So I'm just slowly building up this dark here of the mass of the hair. And that's going to go a long way with helping to gauge the relative values, right? That's what we're basically looking at. So I'm going to use a straight edge here, just a piece of paper. Here's a trick. We have magnets. Let's use our magnets, right? So I want to keep this kind of beautiful border. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put that here, magnet, magnet. Now that we have a beautiful border and we don't have to worry about keeping it clean. Also, you want to spray away from the shield, so this way you're not getting under spray. And then I have an opportunity here to do this side, right? So you don't have to always have acetate or what have you. You can just put this here again, like so. Magnet, magnet, and then it's just like having a perfect border. So now I can be a little more free, breathe easy, and not be so careful and worrying about underspray. Really get in there. Move this off to the side. Travis says he started doing dirt bikes, helmets as a kid, and motorcycles, so painting on irregular surfaces just came naturally. Painting on flat is a treat. Wow. See that? When we think that, you know, we think as just a traditional painter, we have it rough, then we see what Dwayne and Travis does. Exactly. Travis, and round and odd-shaped objects just take some practice and wing it ability. Wow, that's great. That's fantastic. So Dwayne and Travis, I want to hear, what is some of the craziest type of surface that you painted on, and what was it, and how did it come out? Love to hear. Great. So I'm also going to worry about her hand, so I'm just going to put this, talk to the hand. I'm just going to, now I'm not going to get the perfect shape of the hand, so I'm going to do what's called crawling along the surface. You keep just like so. So Brad and I, Brad from Manitoba, Canada, he's been my student for almost 3.5 years now, and we've done airbrush and India ink, we've done pastel, and now we're working on oil painting, which is really wild. So that is super cool. So with my students in the mentorship program, I always try and give an art school kind of experience where you just don't learn one medium. We learn all different mediums, which is really cool because working in oils will help your airbrush, working in airbrush will help your oils, working in pastel will help both of them. So it's really great how that kind of feeds off of one another. And let's see, so Dwayne says, like anything, it gets easier and better with time and practice. I started on helmets. Wow, helmets must be really wild, huh? That's really cool, my friend. Gonna work on the darken of her finger. We'll do some freehand airbrushing here. Okay, so the airbrush is working its way out, which is nice. whatever issue is kind of going away. It has, maybe there was something in that nozzle. Happens to the best of us. But we have to make sure that we address it right away when we do have issues. I think raising that air pressure might have pushed that out. See, by going in and addressing the large dark mass of the hair, now it seems like we're getting more of the likeness that was kind of eluding us before. Not that we're even remotely thinking about likeness, right? We're not thinking or caring about likeness at all. And Mr. Travis says, there's some very odd-shaped parts in motorcycle world. Strangest thing is he painted was a barber's hair clippers, candy purple and script lettering. Now that's really cool. That must have came out cool. Do you have that on your Facebook page? If you do, I'm going to go check it out, Travis. That is cool. Yeah, that's the great thing I love about Airbrush, and one of the reasons I got into it is the fact that you can paint on anything that paint will stick onto. You can't say that about other mediums. Now, Dwayne says the hardest one for him was, he think, was a bowling ball size metal ball done all around in a JRR token kind of theme. Whoa, that must have been amazing. If you have a picture of that, I want to see. Now that is, someone gave me that, I'd be like, no. Beyond my scope of expertise. So I admire that. Holy cow. That is great, Dwayne. That is so cool. Motorcycles, Travis and Dwayne, you guys are true artists. So that is amazing. So right here, so I have to make sure I pay attention when I'm painting, keep my head in that game, because the hair does not extend underneath her pinky here. It kind of falls off right about here. And now I'm getting like perfect atomization and response of the trigger, which was eluding me earlier in the live stream. This is what I'm used to. Not worrying about the negative space of the hair. It's so minor. Okay, so really liking it, feeling much better than I was before with how responsive it is. Now let's go ahead and see if we could very lightly do some of it looks like right here, which is the clavicle. We're seeing part of this clavicle here. Love the responsiveness of the airbrush. You take it for granted, right? Until it's gone, and then you're like, ah! There we go. Very happy. Look at that. So one of the most important things about an airbrush is when you start pulling back, you know exactly when that ink or paint's going to come out. If you don't know exactly when that ink or paint's going to come out, that's the issue. That's what's going to cause everything really to be weird and just fight you, and things will not flow correctly. So now I just know when that ink is coming out, so I can pump that trigger, get that muscle memory, and just have it really nice. That's really important. So Mr. Dwayne says, took it on solely as a challenge and all but pulled his hair out trying to keep perspective. Oh my God. It's hard enough on a flat surface. I can only imagine what that would be like, the challenge, right? That's incredible, my friends. You guys are unbelievable. We're going to very lightly get rid of some of these pencil lines, and I'll show you where. Now, what's interesting is even though the kneaded eraser is our softest eraser, it seems to do a little more damage at this stage of the game. So you see, I'm just going to get rid of some of these superfluous pencil lines we no longer need. Well, I'm being redundant. Superfluous means you no longer need it. So I was being superfluous. And so yeah, see how we don't need those pencil lines. We don't need no pencil lines. Okay. So I can also see where I kind of dropped the ball here and didn't extend the shadow of that lip all the way over, which is, it's all good as long as I catch it. So this is coming over here like this, and we have this corner. I want to keep that corner, so I'm just going to go like this. Right there, that's a little bit better. Not quite there. Bring that down. And we have a little bit of edge right there. So remember my little trick when I want to see if it works first before I go in. So I take like a piece of sandpaper, maybe like 80 grit, and I take like a 6B and I put some 6B graphite on there, and I take a stump that I don't use for white, only for graphite, and then I just kind of hit it before I hit it. So with the airbrush, see, so I can go right there and say, you know what, that's what I need to do. Same thing here, and then I can come back in with airbrush a little bit later. But this is a great way to explore before, because let's say I went in with airbrush and I didn't like it, yeah, I can erase it, but this is far easier. Great. So now you see we're starting to get some expression and her teeth, so that's good. Pam, have a great night. Always a pleasure. Thanks so much for hanging out. And I hope you have a happy Easter, and take care of yourself, and have fun down there in Virginia. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. So now I have the eraser. I'm going to go with the kneaded eraser at this point as soon as I find it. So it's always important to find the eraser before you use it. So let's see. Did I put it in the drawer? If I didn't put it in the drawer, that's telling me one thing, that it's not in the drawer but on the floor. Let's see. Or maybe it's over here. Nope, it must be on the floor. I see it. Excuse me while I go get it. Okay. Well, this is an older one and it's dirty, so we don't want that one. And let's see. If I can. Now here is one of my favorite kneaded erasers. This is the blue one by Faber-Castell, and I love this. And Colette got me this, so thank you, Colette. She got me this for a long time ago, but I'm just getting to use it right now. And it's interesting because a little more moist than the others, but it just has a nice feel to it, so I like it. And I'll put it back in its handy dandy carrying case. And then I'll get up. Oh, okay. So what time is it? I haven't looked at the time. So it's almost 11 o'clock. Time goes by fast when you're having fun, you know? Oh, thank you, Pam. I appreciate that. You are the best. So I'm so glad Pam was here. And let's see now. And this is a little sticky, so I'm not sure. It might be because I didn't use it right away, so it has a little bit of a stickiness. Maybe that will go away, I hope. Let's see. Different brands of kneaded erasers work differently. You know, early, and then sometimes you have to break them in, that sort of thing. Let's see. This is a little too flimsy for me right now, so I'm going to leave that out. And I'm going to look for, not every live stream goes super smoothly, as you can see. Oh my God. You know, like little things are sort of going awry today. Let's see. So, I had to have dropped it. Or maybe it's over here. Very fascinating. I do have it in the other studio. I'll be right back, guys. So here is a Blick kneaded eraser, and I like them. I think they're pretty good. And what I do is, when you use a kneaded eraser, here's a good trick or tip. You don't want to use a big old piece, but a small piece. Maybe like around this size. And this way you're not using the whole kneaded eraser and getting it dirty. And this is actually much more manageable. So this one's a little stiffer. That kind of helps us in the early going of an airbrush painting when we've got to erase a lot of pencil lines. Wow, thank you, Brad. Brad says that my personal classes are the best. Well, with great students like you, they are great because of my students like yourself, sir. And oh, thanks, Pam. Pam says, love the reality. I appreciate that. Thanks. The reality of not everything going well, right? And so we all struggle, every one of us, in different ways. Okay, so I have my airbrush here. And let's do some precision freehand airbrushing here. There we go. And so where were we going? Maybe right over here in her nose, not up her nose. There we go. So we have different tools for the different jobs, right? So for those stubborn lines, we'll use that. And then of course, like before, we'll use the stump to kind of give us a pre-spray where we want to go. And then we can lighten up certain areas, like so. Get rid of those pencil lines that no longer belong. And then right here, which is wonderful, we have her, the wing of her nostril as it comes down here, like so. But there's a dark right underneath it, so we'll have our freehand shield, and we'll just go ahead and go perpendicular, not parallel. And now you see how we kind of created that kind of shadow there. Little things go a long way. And same thing here, we do have a little bit of a cast shadow, but there is no edge between the wing of the nostril. So I'm going to increase my distance and then just very lightly come in there, and then I'll erase that. Hey Braden, thank you so much for the super chat sticker, my friend. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for hanging out on a Wednesday. I know you could do so many other things, but the fact that you hang out encourage me, and it really means a lot to me, my friend. So thank you so much. That is so great. So I really appreciate you, sir. All the way from Alberta, Canada, which is great. Love my Canadian friends. Definitely want to visit Canada because the people that I'm meeting from Canada are just amazing. Like Braden, like Mr. Brad, you know, my Canadian friends. You guys are all really fantastic. Thank you again for that super chat, my friend. It's encouraging. It helps me to relieve some of the financial stress of being a full-time artist or trying to be. So thank you for that, sir. Thank you, thank you. So now we have this, and we are going to continue with some of the shadows. Maybe I can lower my air pressure with the pack valve a little bit. Let's see right here. I'm going to have to lighten that up a bit, but I'm just getting an idea of where I have to go. Very cool. And then, you know, where we were working, we want to get rid of some pencil lines we could as we're going. Like right here, this is thoroughly dry, so I can get rid of some of those pencil lines. And now let's see if we can work on her finger a little bit. We can pump that trigger. A little bit darker on the under part of her nail bed. Pull that over here like so. And pull this down. Just making sure that we make that finger look like that is being affected by the light, which it is, right? And so we're just going to make sure we get that. Now what I can do is make sure I get that area of the finger correct. And this is where I would do parallel, right, like that. So perpendicular, not parallel is a good rule, but there's always an exception to every rule. Pull that down. just like so. There we go. So you see how we're working on her finger, making that part of her hand. Mr. Air Todd, how are you today all the way from San Diego? How are you? So glad you're here, sir. There we go. And then we'll work on the other finger and see how. Oh, never sorry that it's late. I'm so glad that you're here. It doesn't matter when you get here, Mr. Air Todd. So, thank you so much for hanging out. How's your job going? And Mr. Braden, how is the new house going? How's that shaping up? Over there in Edmonton, right? Not Winnipeg. There we go. So work's going okay for Mr. Todd. That's great to hear, sir. And I'm going to be working on the underplane or the top part of the hand and how that's in shadow because it's at an angle that's not facing the light. It's still facing the light, but not as directly as the fingers, as you can see. So that's what's happening there. And then I can put another magnet right there to keep our edge. And keep pumping that trigger, and that's going to give you the control, is pumping that trigger. Like I said, we're just sculpting that hand together right now. That's important. So right now we have this edge right here of this finger. And we want to maintain that edge. And how do we do that? By either making it lighter or darker than what's next to it, right? The adjacent shape often describes the shape better than the shape itself, right? So we definitely can see that the finger is lighter than the adjacent shape. So we can take that adjacent shape and make it a bit darker, just like so. There we go. So now you see that finger starts to come forward. And Braden says, he showed his brother and his wife my work. They were very impressed. He's honored you're going to meet. Yes, I'm going to meet Braden and his family in New York in May. I'm going to show him around the Metropolitan Museum of Art, him and his family. And that's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to that. And tell your brother thank you so much for being impressed. I look forward to meeting him too. That's really cool. So yes, definitely looking forward to that, Braden. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'm also going to maybe do a little video of it, if you don't mind. And so we can show you guys, you know. So it's amazing. So you guys, we see each other on Wednesdays and everything like that in the videos. And it's just amazing when we get to meet each other in real life. And that's when worlds collide, right? So it's cool. So, you know, you really meet real friends online, and I consider you all real friends. This day and age, it's hard to meet people in normal situations, right? It's a different world than it was just what 20 years ago. Totally different world. So we want to make sure we want to separate these fingers, and it's not going to be easy, and how we do that is make sure that, you know, we decide, is the finger darker or the adjacent shape darker? And in this moment, the finger is darker. Make sure I have ink in here. See, and I'm running low. So that could be another thing that is kind of making an irregular spray pattern, is not having enough ink. So I'm going to put 4 drops, and I'm going to do 4 and 6 this time. A little bit more diluted than before. Very cool. And let's see how this goes. All right, so now I'm going to darken the outside of her finger, and that's her ring finger here, which is great. Just come right over here. And just come up here like this. And you see how I'm darkening that edge, because that's either, sometimes it's the finger that's lighter and the background's darker, but in this case the finger is darker and the background is lighter. But on the other side of that finger, that's also darker. There we go. And that's what we have to do to get these different shapes, these fingers, to come forward, right? That's very important. Bring this down over here, and then right here is a dark. I'm going to get that. There we go. And just continue building that up. And then right here you have a knuckle. Okay, and that's how we're bringing that hand forward. And then if we zoom out, we can see that hand starting to come forward a little bit. It may be a little dark right now, but a lot of times if you erase too early, that value would have came into congruence anyway. So you want to give it a chance to kind of fall in line by darkening everything else around it, and then it won't be so dark. It looks dark because everything else around it with simultaneous contrast is making it so light, you know? That's probably what's causing it. So that's cool. And let me try something here. Just put this aside. Put this right over here. Okay, so now let's continue working on these fingers. So we're going to work on the pinky a little bit here. Zoom in. And again, we can see that it's a little bit darker on the top part of the finger. darker on the inside of the finger. I'm going to make this turn. There we go. Perfect. And bring this over the shadow. Now these pencil lines, they're causing some issues here, but we're going to fix that by getting rid of those pencil lines. So right now I'm just kind of sculpting with the light these fingers, right? That's what's important, and that's what we're going to do. And let's see, right here, let's see if we can paint the nail bed of her middle finger here. Oh, let me show you. Otherwise, you're just going to take for granted that I'm painting because I'm not showing you guys. Let's see, this finger right here. So we have a little bit of the dark around the nail bed. And then let's work on the nail bed of the other finger over here. Let's see. Right here. Bring that down, nice and sharp. There we go. And then it's nice and dark right here on the edge of this finger. Now we're getting in. There we go. Now we have a nice dark cast shadow right here. See that? Now we're able to really get in there and start making the airbrush do what it's supposed to do. So I do have exactly what happened. I did have the wrong needle in there, and now at 11:20 it's finally working absolutely perfectly. You know, it's just, you have these things like super tuned, and like Travis's airbrush, it's going to be super tuned before it leaves my studio, and you get like really spoiled when it's working at that high level, and if anything is off, you know, it's almost like most most airbrushes would be happy to have that control, but when I have the control I have with the custom Extreme Patriot Arrow, you know, I'm super spoiled. So now you can see the kind of detail I'm getting is absurd. And if I don't be able to get this kind of control, I'm just not happy. So look at this control that I'm getting now. It's just, it's crazy. It's like, it's better than painting with a mechanical pencil. Now I have the confidence to go right in here with the teeth and just really get in there and not worry and not be like, uh-oh, is it going to come out right? I know it's going to come out right. I'm not worried whatsoever. Great. So now I can really come in there with the nostrils like I wanted to do before. Just amazing control that you get when you have the right tool. And when your right tool is actually humming along, right? It's important. Dwayne says, nothing worse than an airbrush that isn't being consistent. Yeah, but like today, it basically had to do with what was different. And I had different needles. So I'll have different needles hanging around, and when I clean it, I'll put it down and I'll put the wrong needle in there. That's what happened. So those are things that, you know, you don't realize it while it's going on. It takes you a while, right, to figure that out. There we go. Yeah, it's like a wrestling match sometimes. But I have to say, I don't, doesn't happen too much in my studio. Not too much. This is a soft edge right here with this lip here. And we're just going to be a good distance and just soften up this upper lip. And then the lower lip is super soft, right? So we have to get rid of this line here. Like I said, we always want to compress the values, right? Because if we don't, then it's not going to be as naturalistic as it could be. See how nice and soft edge that is? Totally different than what our proclivity is, right? So that's something that is, you know, really, really rough to get down. Is compressing those values. And also when we're working in color, making sure that we don't oversaturate the color, because that's what our natural thing is to, you know, oversaturate color and also over contrast things and also outline things that really shouldn't be outlined, that kind of stuff. So now this is kind of thoroughly dry. We can start erasing some of this pencil here and bring this down. Erase some of this pencil lines here. And now the finger is starting to come together, and right down here. And Dwayne says, I use old needles to do scratching techniques and remove small parts of the mask. He actually stuck one into his brush before and couldn't figure out what was up for a bit. That's exactly what happened tonight. So true, Dwayne. It's good that I'm not the only one that deals with this craziness in the studio, right? That's so funny. Funny but not funny. Funny because it's true, right? That's what it is. And as you see, we get rid of those pencil lines and things kind of start clearing up. Brad says, try not having the air pressure set right. Yes, that's another thing, right? I remember sometimes I'll turn it off, you know, the night before, and then I start, you know, airbrushing bright and early, whether it's my own stuff or with a student. And I'm like, in the beginning, like the first couple of minutes, I'm like, I'm getting incredible detail. Wow, I'm on the money. The air pressure's going down to 12 to 10, and then I realize it goes down to nothing, and I'm like, I was getting that amazing detail because my air pressure was super low. And then you're like, that happens, right? And Dwayne says, been there. And Mr. Patrick says, sorry guys, I've been sitting here working my dots and daggers and not really chiming in. Oh, I'd rather you do your dots and daggers, but always, you know, just normal small talk, Mr. Patrick. So I'm so glad to hear that you're doing your exercises and just getting in those hours with the airbrush at every level. That is so important, every level, because we're never at the point where good practice is not helping us. So right here, I can go ahead and freehand this dark. Just like so. right over here in between these two fingers here. I'm going to freehand this. And there's no harm in doing using a freehand shield here. Just whatever feels best at the time, that's the right way. A little bit of spidering, that's my fault. Okay, darkened that up really nice. And yes, keep on daggering, so true. Practice, we all need it, right? His dots look like daggers and daggers look like straw. Hey, that's okay. You know, now you know how to do those. So practice, no matter how, is always going to work, you know. Dwayne says 20 minutes of it every day is his warm-up before starting the day. That's incredible. And I know that's paying dividends, right? I just know it. So, see, at a very high level that Dwayne is, and he's kicking butt. And he's still doing the very basics, right? Never at the point where the basics are not crucial. Never. And so I'm going to make sure that I kind of lighten up the light in her nail bed right there. And you see how, you know, we just slowly build up, and then when the airbrush is, you have the right needle in your airbrush, then it's even better. There we go. And let's go with the nail bed of the middle finger. So that's, so you can see it. Make sure it's the right size. And thank you so much, Colette, again, for the blue kneaded eraser. I love it. And it's so brand new, it just has to get rid of some of its moisture. But I love these because they last really long and they feel good. But, you know, in the early going, I think the Blick kneaded eraser is probably best because it's a little stiffer. Right out of the brick, you know. So Patrick says, I read that about a month ago, Dwayne, and I need to do more of it so he's able to do them every night. It's so easy to get sidetracked. Yes, definitely. So true. Guys, we hit the 11:30 mark, and I just want to say thank you so much, everyone, for hanging out. Thank you, Braden, for the amazing Super Chat sticker. Thank you, Mr. Dwayne. Thank you, Dave Gregory. You guys are just amazing. Really just helps out, just incredible to relieve the pressure of financial stuff and everything like that. So thank you very much for that. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you everybody for hanging out with me. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Travis, for understanding of the slight delay of getting that airbrush out to you. But Friday it's going out. I have to make the inks to give them to you for free. And so this is where we are so far. It looks like we didn't do a lot, but we really did because we're setting up. So guys, all have a great night. Happy Easter, happy Passover to my Jewish friends. Happy Ramadan to my Arab friends. So glad that, you know, you guys are here and watching as well. Don't want to leave you out. And thank you guys. You are all the best. And look forward to seeing you guys next week. And if you have any questions, always email me, paintingcliffs@gmail.com.